Hi, and welcome to the Bruce Channel. I'm Bruce, and yeah, it's been a while. Crazy busy and completely unexpected, but here we are, so we'll get right to it. So let's see, there have been a lot of primary elections. Those are about over. I think they are all over. And there were some surprises? There were a lot of surprises. There was an incumbent Democrat House member from New York upset. This is an incumbent upset by a more progressive woman. In fact, lots of women won primaries, too many to mention all of them. And 2 Republican representatives were indicted. And it's only coincidence, but they were the first 2 incumbent Republican representatives to endorse Donald Trump. Lord, that was many years ago. Now, throughout history, House members, senators, cabinet members, both parties have been indicted. And of those indictments, some became convictions, others were acquitted. But as so far as I've been able to ascertain, no one has previously castigated any of those indictments. If there's evidence, prosecutors are supposed to follow through. Yet he who must not be named criticized the indictments because it might harm those Republicans' chances for re-election. Well, ought it not? Yeah, there's evidence. But hey, let's let it slide because those guys are on our side. We'll give them a pass. Oh, and speaking of indictments, so the Orange One's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, did plead guilty. That was big, it's been a long time since I've been on, but he has agreed to cooperate and provide what he knows about the Trump organization and the bosses therein. And during Cohen's court pleading, he admitted to paying off Stormy Daniels. This was during the election, and doing so at the direction of his boss, whom he identified, at least in that proceeding, only as a person running for national office. The Trumpettes didn't like that. In fact, Agent Orange said flipping ought to be illegal. What? That's a time-honored legal maneuvering. You work with the smaller fish, you try to get to the bigger fish. That's how they get to the mafia chieftains and crooked corporate officials and things like that. Meanwhile, Paul Manafort, the big hair's former campaign manager, of course, had been convicted in federal court of money laundering and income tax evasion. And even as he was still facing charges in state court, the president praised him for standing firm and not flipping. Oops. So now at the state level, Manafort has agreed to flip in exchange for, presumably, a lighter sentence. And because it's state and not federal law, there's no presidential pardon available, even if one was desired to be given. All right, and while my timeline prevents me from knowing the outcome, Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation to the Associate Justice at the Supreme Court, a confirmation that was all but thought to be in the bag not long ago, suddenly maybe there's a hole in the bag, as several women have accused Judge Kavanaugh of having sexually assaulted them. The first, back when he was 17, she 15. The Republican-controlled Judiciary Committee did hear her statement. It questioned her, but the question is begged. If they want the truth, which is what they all say they want, why the heck don't they subpoena Mark Judge, Kavanaugh's best friend, who was allegedly in the room with them? I don't know, I wasn't there, you weren't there. So without hard evidence like DNA provides, and of course that's not possible, but without hard evidence, it's who's believable. She was nothing if not believable. And her testimony was riveting, actually. So then they took a lunch break, and the judge himself then appeared before the committee. Now, I'd expected a calm, dignified persona. Instead, he raged, he cried, and although in previous testimony he proclaimed that judges should be above politics, which, for the record, before becoming a federal judge, he was a high-powered lawyer for lots of several partisan, pronounced Republican administrations and campaigns. Despite that, during his appearance, he came, did I say raging? Raging against Democrats. Well, so much for nonpartisanship. They were both compelling television, I'll tell you that. Oh, and while on the subject of unwanted sexual assaults, just this week, convicted sexual predator Bill Cosby was officially designated a violent sexual predator by the sentencing judge, which means he'll have to alert law enforcement agencies when he's around, and he'll have to have counseling for the rest of his life. Of course, he's not going to be around and traveling anytime soon. He was sentenced to a minimum of 3 years in prison. He's what, 80, 81? Okay, it is indeed a mad, 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 mad world. So you may have heard a couple of weeks ago there was a pretty good storm near here, Hurricane Florence, which had its ups and downs. It formulated in the Atlantic. It vacillated between being a Cat 1 and a Cat 5. It hit the Carolinas head on. And although the wind speeds had diminished somewhat by the time it did, the rain was as heavy as rain can get. And because it wasn't fast moving, that rain, the whole rain and nothing but the rain, just stalled out and rained and rained and rained. Matching up against history, it was the second most rainfall from any hurricane since those things have been measured. Only last year's Hurricane Harvey was worse. And both were similar. Non-stop downpours just hanging out for days and days over the same area. As a result, Wilmington, North Carolina stayed underwater for, like 2 weeks. It still got places underwater. At my deadline, still areas in places like Wilmington and Fayetteville under 3 feet or more of water. Sections of both I-40 and I-95 were impassable, completely underwater. Here's the thing. Along the coasts of both Carolinas, some of the towns still have not recovered from Hurricane Matthew, which visited us 2 years ago, while filming After Yesterday. The rain scene in that film was actually filmed during Hurricane Matthew. Now, where I am, we were far enough inland for it only to be some, gusty winds, big rain. Farther out, it was catastrophic flooding. And now, Florence has visited catastrophe upon some of the same areas as was Matthew. Oh boy, by the way, you like ham? Bacon? There's a good chance the pig was raised in North Carolina, which is the second largest pork-producing state. Now, depending which way the wind blows, some of those areas, and they're mostly east and south of Raleigh, are pretty awful places to live because, like all mammals, the millions of pigs do number one and number two, and that waste collects into areas politely called lagoons. Well, all that water overran the lagoons, and you can actually see the sewage from space flowing into the Atlantic. No swimming here. Now, again, where I am, no big worries. But still, the supermarkets and the DIY stores were crowded. Lots of things sold out. It did rain often on Saturday. Sunday it rained a bit more and a little heavier. I didn't lose power. I only had garden variety ranches down. The coast is a lovely place to live, but I'm not tempted to live there. Or did I take that back? If I had a lot of money, sure. But otherwise, why take the risk? Especially since we now seem to get 100 or 500 or 1,000-year rain event every other year or so. Which those who know say it is because of global warming. Certain members of the House and Senate and certain governors who also have poured themselves out, they answer questions about what to do by saying, well, I'm not a scientist and I'm not a climate scientist. Right. I'm not either. Congress has over the years restricted the use of tobacco, warning message, a ban on broadcast advertising, a ban on print advertising. I'll bet that most of the members of Congress who voted for such legislation weren't doctors or physiologists or medical researchers. Instead, they were influenced by the experts in such things. Today, even though 97% of experts in climate science say we're in big trouble, and even though they warn it's because we burn fossil fuel, and even though they warn we're at a tipping point, there's less and less Arctic ice. Ice is white, it reflects. Water is dark, it collects. I've said it before, we have the finest Congress money can buy. Oh, it's not only us in the U.S., the southeast U.S., that gets big storms. In early September, Typhoon Jebi hit Japan. And it was the strongest storm to hit in 25 years. Big storms always create chaos wherever they are, but wow, this one was pretty brutal, causing at least 11 dead, 600 injuries. But get this, one of the most important airports in Japan, the third busiest, the Kansai International Airport, it's actually an island. The airport is a self-island that they built off the coast of Honshu Island. It connects via the Sky Gate Bridge. And when it was constructed, the engineers took into account and planned for typhoons and earthquakes. Oops. Typhoon Chevy slammed a fuel tanker into the bridge, which holds both vehicular traffic and rail lines. 3,000 people suddenly stranded at the airport, travelers, flight crews, airport employees. It took 3 days to evacuate them all using ferry boats.
Hey, let me tell you about my book, Shrink. Or wait, I can let others do it.
All right, so let's move away from the dark to the light, to more pleasant thoughts. Some announcements were recently made about some of our returning TV favorites. NBC, The Blacklist, won't return until January. Not sure why that is, but that's what they're doing. Oh, and it's going to move from Tuesday to Friday night. Amazon's The Man in the High Castle. I say loosely because I read the book and there's some stuff that's similar, but they took their own tack. Anyway, loosely based on Philip K. Dick's book of the same title. It can be watched when? This upcoming week. It goes up October 5th. Netflix's House of Cards, which we sort of expected back early this year, like January-ish, was of course derailed when the scandal surrounding Kevin Spacey forced the producers to fire him and find a completely different story arc for the final season. Well, it will be available for viewing beginning November 2nd. And a year ago, I was anticipating the return of Stranger Things, also on Netflix, Stranger Things. And when they announced it would be available on Halloween last year, I thought, well, how I propose, Stranger Things, sure. I anticipated something similar this year. Nope. Don't have a date yet, but Stranger Things won't return until summer 2019. All right, maintaining an eye on things that are not life-altering. For those of us who follow such things, Major League Baseball playoffs begin this week. Go Try. And football is back. As I record this, I don't know the outcome, of course, but a big game this weekend. Happy Valley, Pennsylvania, where my number 4 Buckeyes visited the number 9 Penn State Nittany Lions. Number 4, number 9. The only thing I know at this point is this. At least one of those rankings will change. And of course the NFL. It's at the quarter mark already. This weekend, at the quarter mark. We can already draw some inferences from that, which has gone down. Both the LA Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs look as though they play against papier-mâché defenses. You might want to make them your picks for the Super Bowl. I'll take them both. You won't get any big odds, though. An upset for the ages was last week when Buffalo beat Minnesota. Did I say beat? They pasted them. And my Cleveland Browns have improved. True, they've only won one game. But they're tied with the Steelers, 1-1. And the Steelers are still ranked as one of the tougher teams in the AFC. And in fact, they tied Pittsburgh in week 1, and we could have won. An overtime closing field goal attempt was blocked. We could have won. And we might have won the game had we not lost 2 weeks ago. The kicker missed 2 field goals and 2 extra points, and still the New Orleans Saints only beat the Browns by 3 points. And we threw away 8 points. Oh well. Anyway, by having won a week ago, we can uncontestedly declare we're better. Yeah, we won 0 times last year. So we're better, and that's fact, not opinion. But in that game, a week and a half ago, Browns fans and indeed NFL observers nationwide were impressed by the debut of number 1 overall pick Baker Mayfield, who took over quarterback just before the end of the first half. He was electric. He led Cleveland to a 21-17 win over the Jets. He came in, they were down 14-0. And, the Jets had at the helm their own highly drafted QB, Sam Darnold. And some experts are actually saying the Browns might even make the playoffs. Oh, that'd be nice, but it's a long season, and if a very good team's chances can go out with, a single injury. Last year, Aaron Rodgers lost several games, almost a season-ending shot. Green Bay missed the playoffs. At the end of last year, the hapless 49ers were made suddenly relevant when their young quarterback, they traded for Jimmy Garoppolo, took over. He went undefeated the rest of the season. They had high hopes for this year. Because they've got high hopes. They've got high... I digress. Anyway, Jimmy Garoppolo blew out his knee, and now he's lost for the season, and that's it for the 49ers. And here's a thought. Not an original one by me, but instead offered by a friend of mine. The 49ers have a backup. I can't even think of his name. And of course, there's another one likely on the taxi squad. But what if they are completely ineffective? Might they be trying to find a quarterback who's experienced, maybe who's been to the playoffs? There is a guy like that available. Not likely to happen, but what if? You know who's available? The guy who took them to the Super Bowl a few years ago, Colin Kaepernick. Yeah. All right, so this is not important, but it's perhaps interesting. Certainly unimportant is my choice of beer. Most of the time, my favorite is Heineken. It's not too costly, though it's clearly not a run-of-the-mill brand, and it pleases my taste buds. There are other interesting beers. I've tried Voodoo Ranger, Devil's Milk, but usually I choose Heineken. But here's the thing. I learned years ago you can't have your favorite anything every day. I love Colombian coffee, but if I have it every day, it just becomes ordinary. Save it for the weekends. Ooh, it stays special. Same with beer. Heineken every day, foolish. So for years, my everyday beer has been Pabst Blue Ribbon, good old PBR. Originally brewed in Milwaukee, it's the perfect everyday beer appropriate for the everyman image it cultivates. Now originally, this is what the cans look like. Pabst Blue Ribbon. And it hasn't changed much. In fact, the only change that you can tell is that when they went to the aluminum, it's got the pop top. You don't have to open it using, what do they call those things? Church key. Yeah. Okay. But a while back, and I really didn't mark down the date, several months ago, maybe it even could be a year ago, they went to this. Looks the same, right? Well, on one side, yeah, but turn it the other way, and you find an amplified celebration of their awards. Under here it reads, the judges only care about one thing, taste. No brand names, no labels, no pretense, and no other American lager has taken home more medals than Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. Okay. Now, I don't know what it costs to change the design on a beer can, and, I'm not even sure why they did it, because okay, it's a marketing thing. We'll catch their eye. We'll get their attention. When it's in the carton, you can't see the can is changed. Okay, they did. I don't know why. But then sometime this summer, they invoked yet another change. Underneath it, let me show you the change. All right, same on the front. Look on the back. Woo! What is that? Well, if you look close, it reads, we are proud to present Gaijin the Artist as the winner of the 2018 PB Art Can. It's a competition. To find out how you can become next year's winner, go to PabstBlueRibbonBeer.com. All right, so I did that. I did that just a few days ago. And it turns out there's some justifiable excitement. There are 3 categories, it said. There's 2D, and you can download the Art Can template. I'm not much of an artist, so why do it? I'm not a visual artist. My medium is words, maybe music. But what the heck, I am pretty good with Photoshop. And there's 3 prizes. First place takes 10 grand, second 3,500, third 1,500. Hey. So I go there and I look and The deadline for this contest, this present contest, is tomorrow, October 1st. Well, I'm a longtime Browns and Indians fan, so wait until next year. That's in my DNA. All right, finally this. On occasion, I brought you my favorite examples of the comic strip Pearls Before Swine by Stephan Pastis. You should know I only discovered the strip a few years ago, but it began syndication back in the early aughts, around 2002, so I missed lots. I just found this. GoComics.com/Pearls Before Swine, and it's got a calendar. You can go back to the very beginning and view all of them one at a time. Now, I've begun. I'm not all the way to present day. I've not caught up, but I have made progress. But I saw this collection, and I thought it was worth bringing to you. They ran for, I think, a little less than a week, a little more than a week, and it was a continued theme, not coming up every day, but here's the initial one, and Pastis' secretary is telling him that Pig has left the strip. Okay, now that went on for a while. One day he'd be visiting Beetle Bailey, and then he's visiting Garfield, as in this example. All right, then, on this May 25th Sunday strip in 2003, in the middle of Memorial Day, it's Memorial Day weekend, Sunday, Zebra and Rat are wondering where Pig went today, as you can see. Now, Sunday strips are, of course, in color, and they're larger. This one was no exception, although it's in reality 2 frames. I didn't reveal the whole thing in the beginning. The one I showed you, and then here we expand out to reveal Pig's real destination. Pretty classy, Mr. Pastis. Pretty classy. And that will do it for us today. Inasmuch as the schedule remains disorderly, I can't tell you when the next episode will return. So let me instead close this way. May your upcoming, as yet undetermined and unknown interval be the best you've ever had.